we got to free our minds, man. Like we got to get rid of the colonizer inside of us.
Yeah.
because when we work out of this context of like there's a right way to do things and there's a wrong way and there's a way that needs to be punished.
Yeah.
The punitive spirit that is in so many of our institutions, like there's no way we're going to actually care for each other when we're just trying to say like I know what's best for you.
You are listening to Two Friends, Two Poems, the podcast where friends read poems to each other just to see what happens. My name is Tom. This was my idea, and today we have part two of our fantastic conversation with Nellsyn Hill. I'm going to let Nellsyn explain her choice because I want this to time out just right with the word vine.
Okay, well, I will say I have been listening to this fabulous podcast called Into the Mythic, and
Cool.
it is a couple of Irish writers. Oh man, I feel really bad. It's Leanne O'Donnell
Mhm.
and Colm. Thank you. Is that it? I think that's
Paul
right. I think that's
Ullman?
it. Paul O'Colm, maybe?
Yeah, Leanne O'Donnell and Paula Coleman.
Yes. Um, it's a great show.
When you say it
And
with an Irish accent, it probably sounds very different.
I was drawn to this. He reads Patty Bush's translation of the Song of Amergin, which is supposedly the first poem that was ever uttered in Ireland by this sailor bard prince who came to avenge the death of his friend. The king of the Tuatha Dé Danann had killed his friend, or his friend had gone exploring and disappeared, and they blamed it on the Tuatha Dé Danann, who were the mythological kind of like godlike people that lived on Ireland before the Sons of Mill came. And I this is all very like new to me also, so I don't want to speak with too much authority on Irish mythology.
Sure.
But when Paul read this poem, I had to stop what I was doing and just like sit with it. I was actually
Mm.
building a play structure in my backyard for my kids,
Yeah.
and I had to just like turn everything off and just be like, whoa. Setting his right foot on the land, Amergin said, I'm wind and sea. I'm waves swelling. I'm ocean's voice. I'm stag of seven clashes. I'm falcon on cliff. I'm sunlit dewdrop. I'm rarest of herbs. I'm boar enraged. I'm salmon in pool. I'm lake in plain. I'm learning's essence. I'm sharpened spear dealing death. I'm God who kindles fire in the head, who makes smooth the stony mountain, who elucidates the lies of the moon, who proclaims where the sun will rest, who leads the starlit waves like cattle from the ocean. On whom do these starlit waves smile? What troop, what god edges blades in a plague-struck fortress, keening of weapons, keening of wind?
Oh,
My God. Oh, that's amazing.
Right? And it's even better when you have more context. And I wish that I could share it all, but I'm still very much a novice.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
enough to know that that is an incantation.
mhm.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that it seems like, well, there's so many poems that the more time you spend with them, the more context gets created around them. So you've got the context of creating a an area for your children to play and be happy. And now you've got this context, which will be my first context with this poem, but we'll get to keep coming back to it. We'll have to do a reprise in like 10 years and be like, now hear this and see what God hath wrought.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's it's complicated to me, my feelings around this poem, because I want to read it and be like, yes, I am the land. Yes, I this place knows me, and my blood and bones are here. But then there's also a part of me that feels, what right have I to claim anything except to know that I'm a part of it?
Wow. Well, this is a hard, not a hard pivot, but it is a pivot. But I'm going to read a poem that was written by a man named Marcellus Williams, and I found it.
Stop it.
Do you know what? Yeah,
Ugh.
so you know the story. Have you read any of his poetry?
I own some of his poetry.
Jesus. Wow. Is this a bad idea or a good idea?
Now I'm just devastated. I bought a book of his poetry at the socialism conference back in September. So he was just executed.
Right. September 24th in
Yep.
Missouri,
Yep.
with serious doubts surrounding the integrity of the conviction.
Hmm.
And yeah, and there's another man on death row right now in, I forgot which state, but for baby shaking syndrome or something. For, do you
His
know that?
daughter had pneumonia.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. And that one was just delayed. So yeah, but this poetry by Marcellus Williams, I kind of had a similar, just like, what the fuck moment with it. Um, this is called Remembering and Silence. When I remember, there's no fear, no grief. When I remember my blood, skin, bones, and teeth. When I remember finger pointing, arms extended, lukewarm embrace, and goals to never reach. When I remember innocence, waking at night, disoriented, moving into the darkness, being abused, suppressed trauma, so I never could weep. When I remember the past is the past, being healed is final, but the treatment is not complete. When I remember to be a stranger in this world or a traveler through the streets, I remember the life I've been given and that death will come to each. When I remember the grave, I hope my faith, obedience, and right actions will increase. When I remember the grave, I think of the charlatans as they sneak. Hypocrites scoff those who sleep. Predators on the prowl, predators on the creep, the devil's creed, or politicians' divisive speech. A democratic republic like Atlantis, buried deep, quickly becoming a myth, or a play that's played out at the poles where they meet. But when I remember the created, I remember it is said, the earth shall be inherited by the meek. So I pinch myself, flex my muscles, examine the image in the mirror, splash water on my cheeks, and behold the weak. Just honesty, never intending to be bleak. Still no fear, still no grief. Only acceptance when I remember the key to rectifying me, standing erect and stable upon my feet, while whisperings are there bidding denials, disobedience, and defeat. Then I remember, remain silent unless one has good to speak. Hmm. Thank you for letting me do that.
Thank you for reading both of those. I hope that lots of people get a lot of truth and wisdom from his words. And
Yeah.
it's just such a shame. And I think about how a connection to the natural world should not be a privilege. And what psychological trauma it is to be in prison.
Oh my God.
Anybody.
Yeah.
And how can you expect to, there are people who talk about like rehabilitation. Um, how do you rehabilitate a person who is treated so inhumanely? How do you, like, when there is such vulnerability and weakness and violence all around you, like how can you expect people to be well? But then like this person who's most likely wrongly convicted
Hmm.
on death row is able to find a shred of peace. Like that's miraculous.
Hmm.
Well, I'm a big fan of prison abolition, so um
Yeah, I love that you um knew about him and his poetry. And there was an article, one of the articles I read, he talked about how important writing poems has been for him, or how important it was for him in prison.
Well, y'all
Uh,
are delightful.
yeah,
This
this
is great.
was just what I needed. I really appreciate it, Nellsyn. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you,
thank
Nellsyn.
you. Thank you both for having me. I'm feeling so much better than I was an hour ago.
Awesome. See what happens when you read poems to each other? Friends read poems to each other?
Is that your tagline for the show?
Yeah, yeah. Friends read poems to each other just to see what happens.
Yeah.
Uh, Look, it's like a cure for something.
My head cold.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, thanks,
Excellent.
Paul. Love you both. Have a
Love
great
you.
Love you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Song of gratitude.